Hello, and welcome to your block leader training session. My name is Hillary. I'm going to be your narrator today. I also moonlight as the Peterborough Pulse coordinator. So just wanted to say thank you in advance for helping out. It is much appreciated. It takes many helping hands to get this event off the ground, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. So you might be wondering, when exactly is Pulse? Well, for the public, it's from 10 to 3, but there's a lot of moving pieces that happen beforehand and afterwards in order to pull this Open Streets event off. Now, for those of you that aren't super aware of what Peterborough Pulse is, we're an Open Streets style event. So essentially, we invite the entire city to come out and walk, bike, dance, play, even socialize in a space that's typically used by cars. We do this as a way to engage the public with an event that showcases the possibilities of what our public realm could potentially be when we transform a street from being car-centric to people-centric. So where is Pulse? Well, Pulse is just in the downtown this year. It's a considerably shortened route. It's going to be going from Sherbrooke Street all the way down to McDonald with a tertiary strip on Charlotte Street from George to Elmer that connects. Now, in order to organize this event, we have a couple levels of leadership. Along with our block leaders, we also have organizing committee members, and from that team, there's a couple, 4 to be exact, that are going to be offering zone leadership support in every zone throughout the route. And we do this as a way to sort of allow our block leaders to softly lead, but in situations that might require a little bit more committee level involvement, there's an opportunity for us to be available to you guys throughout the day. So here's an example of what a block leader and committee member might look like. So anybody in a red shirt is from the Peterborough Pulse Organizing Committee, and our block leaders will have a lanyard to sort of identify them as a volunteer in a leadership role. Although you're wearing a purple shirt, which is the same color as the rest of the volunteers, it's that lanyard that helps identify you. So you might be wondering, how do we communicate with such a huge event? Well, for the most part, we tend to use radio. If we want to get a message from zone to zone, radio's our go-to. First aid responders will have radios. The police will. Myself, as the coordinator, our chair, Sue, and our co-chair, Terry, will have a radio. And every member of our organizing team that's helping out as a leader in a zone will also have a radio. Now, just to flip back here, you'll notice in the lanyards also have cell phone numbers. So in the event that something happens, whether it be an emergency situation or otherwise that you need to get in touch with somebody that has a radio, you can always connect with us through that. So how does communications flow? For the most part, if a volunteer has a question or concern, or they just want to take a break, they'll simply go to a block leader or a red shirt if need be, and for more serious situations, it will go further up the chain. In the event of a medical incident, whether it be a bump or bruise or something a little bit more serious, the first thing we want to do is connect with a red shirt so we can get the radios going and connect with and reach out to our first aid responders with our location. And those first aid responders will come and assess the situation, and if need be, ensure that an ambulance is called. Now, even if it's just a Band-Aid, it's really important that we call our first aid responders, because that allows us, from a health and safety standpoint, to identify where there are higher risks and where people are getting injured at Pulse. So the Pulse route and zones are essentially broken up into 4 zones, and each zone is comprised of 2 blocks. And Zone 1, we go from Sherbrooke to Charlotte, and on the opposite side, we pick up on Zone 2 from Charlotte to Simcoe, with that little strip on Charlotte from George to Elmer. And then on the other side of Simcoe, we have Zone 3 all the way to Brock, and then we're ending in Zone 4 from Brock to McDonald. It's really important that we pay attention to what zones we're in, and as a block leader, you just want to stay in your designated area throughout the day. Unless you're on break, that's where you want to be, because we need to have a leadership person of authority in every block for the rest of our volunteers, so that if anything happens, we can respond in a coordinated fashion. So Zone 1, if you happen to be designated as a Zone 1 block leader, in the morning at 8 a.m., you're going to want to check in at our Zone 1 info tent area, which happens to be out front of Canada Post at the corner of King and George. When you arrive at 8 a.m. for all zones, your tent will not be set up probably, and it's our intention that once you arrive in teams of 2, along with a committee member and some of our setup crew, we'll get that tent put up really quickly. Now back to Zone 1, your leadership, your zone leader was going to be Tegan, and she is the executive director at Bike, so she'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between the info tent and the zone and the bike valley in front of the Bike Community Cycling Hub. Zone 2 is that Charlotte Street strip. Whoa, that's a mouthful. And your info tent's just right here, but it's also Charlotte Street is where our snack hub is. It's a healthy snack hub. It's been curated to showcase what healthy snacking could look like. And our Zone 2 info tent is going to be a big one, 20 by 20. And we'll have some picnic tables, I believe 3. And then the other tent will be housed with just our regular info tent gear. This is also where we'll be handing out our Peterborough Pulse play guides. And so if you happen to be in this zone, make sure that the volunteers are aware of the play guides. And if you have any merrymakers, try and encourage them to hand them out. Your leader is going to be Joel from the DBIA. We have lots of restaurants in and around Charlotte Street, so it's a good thing to have him on hand. He mainly deals with the media and also helps out with setup in a very valuable way. And he's also very funny, so make sure you tell him a joke or two. So Zone 3, that's going to happen from Simcoe to Brock, and this little star for visual is where our info tent area is going to be, which is at the RBC on the corner of Hunter and George. And for a visual guide, it's right here. Lindsay's going to be a leader there. She'll also be helping out with pizza deliveries on event day, so look out for her. She'll be probably carrying a pizza in the afternoon. Zone 4 is happening between Brock and McDonald, and our info tent is going to be erected just at the corner of McDonald and George. And your leadership committee member is Kate, and Kate's our marketing and media communications specialist, so she might roam a little bit outside of the zone just to get some social shots, but anytime she's outside of her area, we'll have another committee member there to be present with a radio. So again, here's where all of our zones are. And outside of those committee members that are in a leadership role this year, we're going to have quite a few folks roaming, myself included. So hopefully we'll be able to say hi and talk about Pulse for a little bit if I don't get pulled away by too many other things. So let's talk about setup and block leader check-in. So like I'd mentioned earlier, you want to be at your info tent area for 8 a.m. And the first thing you want to do is set up your tent. We have a planogram so that everything looks consistent in a Brandon fashion. And that planogram will be housed inside a binder that says Zone Binder. You also have quite a bit of zone gear. There'll be different volunteer kits, and they'll all be organized in little bags with titles on top. So as soon as you start getting through the zone, materials after your tent's erected, try and organize those bags in a fashion however you see fit. Just don't open them, but organize them, because there's a lot. They're all over the place, and then when you get a chance, pull out your block leader bag. This should all be kind of going down in and around the 8:30 timeline. So once you find that block leader kit, inside will be your t-shirt, your lanyard, some Pulse posters, along with 2 clipboards that will have a detailed map of each zone. So an ongoing effort between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. will be to offer assistance to any activity leader that might not be too sure about where they are setting up. So once you've kind of went through your block leader kit, try and spend some time to get familiar with what's inside the zone binder, because we house a lot of stuff in there. It might not just be, your clipboard that you'll have to go to in order to get things done. So make sure you flip through it. And when you're not too busy, try and help out our activity leaders, because they might not be sure where they need to be. And then hopefully, as we're heading closer towards the 10 o'clock mark, you'll be prepared for when your volunteers arrive. So at 9:45 a.m. will be the volunteer check-in for morning shift. And what they're going to do is essentially go to the tent, and your job will be to help sign them in. We will have on your clipboard a process that details how we want to do it, but right now I will verbally go through it with you. So using your zone binder, you're going to do a roll call and go through the volunteer schedule. The schedule isn't on your clipboard. The only thing that's on your clipboard are just a few pages for quick reference. Everything else is in the binder. So get used to using the binder as much as you use the clipboard. Once you identify who's there and the committee member has helped you fill in any no-shows, you're going to allocate all those zone kits from before, those bags of things, and give them to the volunteers. And tucked inside will be some instructions that will help them refresh on what it is exactly they're supposed to be doing. And then you let them sort of go off. And while you are in your block leader role, if you notice that they're not... you haven't seen somebody on your block for a while, then make sure that you connect with the other block leader closest to you to let them know. And then hopefully they'll, make sure that merrymaker or whomever pops on over to your area. So again, your zone binder will house your volunteer schedule, and the schedule will be at the very first page, so it's something that you can easily access, but then tucked behind that page will be all the other zones, just in case you have a volunteer show up in the wrong place. So afternoon check-in is going to happen at 12. Very similar process. You might have some role shuffling. You're going to want to hand out the volunteer kits that have the instructions. Maybe there's a bit of role shuffle, but what's different about the afternoon is that we have scheduled volunteers so that there's an afternoon overlap. So for an hour, we'll have 2 people doing the same role, and hopefully there'll be some knowledge transfer. And it's our intention that this will happen over pizza. So at 12 o'clock sharp, there should be pizza at your tent, and they'll be able to sort of meet and greet, have their lunch, whether they're coming in for the first time or they're getting ready to leave at 1. Everybody should have a slice. Make sure you do too. It's a really long day. And then throughout the shift, you just want to sort of be roaming and making sure that everybody's having a good time. And if anything happens, the first thing you want to do is connect with a red shirt person that has a radio if it needs to go to a higher level. So at a certain point in the day, before you know it, it will be around 2:30. And that's the time that we want to start getting participants aware that Pulse is ending. So at any opportunity, try and remind participants that Pulse is coming to a close soon. We'll also have some musicians that will make an announcement at 3 p.m. to sort of move them off the route and onto the sidewalk. And then at 3 p.m., volunteers from throughout your zone should be heading back to the info tent to drop off any sort of gear they might have borrowed throughout the day in their role. At the same time, 3 p.m., end of Pulse, you should be meeting some new folks, and that would be our teardown crew. So once they've arrived, you can start tearing down the tent and set all the tent materials to the side, just to the curb for later pickup. And then hopefully around 3:15, we will have the barricades coordinated in such a way that we'll be able to allow vehicles back onto the street. And hopefully by that time at 3:15, the participants will be off the route. We can't allow vehicles on the route until, for teardown, at least until the participants are back on the sidewalk. So by 3:20, Tegan and Lindsay will be driving through the route, picking up signage and decorations and tents and a coordinated effort, along with our teardown crew and yourselves, and we'll be also loading and unloading, all that jazz later on. So when that's going down, you want to run through the entire zone just to make sure that any pulse signage or decoration has been picked up. And whatever you collect, bring it to the closest info tent. We will sort that stuff later. And then at 3:45, right before we officially open it back up to the public as a street again, you want to have a visual check on all the intersections from Water to Elmer to make sure that the barricades are off to the side. Public Works will pick those up later. And then between 4 and 5, we'll be dropping everything off at the DBIA. And hopefully, before 5 o'clock, we'll be at Riley's enjoying a beer or apple juice. Now, I just want to circle back to one little thing that I might not have mentioned. In this Block Leader Zone Kit, you'll also have maps. These are public-facing maps, and whenever there's an opportunity in the morning, after your volunteers have sort of been signed in, make sure that you go throughout your route and hand these to every activity leader in business. It's our intention that there will be maps all over the street, and participants will be able to easily navigate the type of Pulse experience they want to have and find out where all the cool things are happening. So this ends our block leader training. Thank you so much for sticking in there. And we couldn't do it without you. So thank you. And I'll see you on Saturday.